Hey dear viewers, and welcome back to the Musings of Maverick channel. I'm your host Maverick, where today we are going to be watching Fairy Gone episode 6. So, 6 episodes in, and I think I finally got a little bit I'm a little bit confident of what this story is all about, right? I did a sort of like summary last episode at the ending where, to the best of my knowledge and gathering information from different sources, what we are faced with. So to put it very simply, it's essentially we got the government people, we got the rebels, and then we also got the mafia, who is most likely working with the rebels. And so the rebels and mafia are trying to overthrow the current people in power, while the government people, our main protagonists, Maria and Three, well, I don't think they really like the current government, but they're part of the government right now, right? So that's why they are in conflict with each other. Of course, in actuality, there's a lot more going on beneath that, with different relationships between these different people, and each of them have their own agendas as well. But to put it simply, that is what the current situation is like. And also, Maria is at the center of this because she happens to be one of the rare cases, in fact, probably one of the only cases that we've known so far, where a fairy directly inhibited her, and so that she became a fairy soldier and she can use fairy powers, right? Because normally what the process is that you need to wait until fairies manifest into a certain form, and then you need to transplant their organs into human beings, and that's how you become a fairy soldier. So as you might expect, the success rate is pretty damn low. In fact, there was only a total of 300 fairy soldiers ever made, if you will. And so that's probably one of the biggest plot points of this anime so far, in that whoever controls the methods or technologies in order to make this kind of fairy power transfer will be the one to decide the future of this current world. So that is the current story in a nutshell. Again, if you guys are interested, I do recommend you guys to go to the official website, where they put a lot of the backstory of this world in there, as well as follow their Twitter, the official Twitter, which also gives out some more relevant information every single week in regards to current episodes or to the past episodes, in regards to characters or a certain mechanic or item in this current world. So anyways, with that summary behind us, so apparently we are entering into a new arc. At least that's what they called it on the Twitter. Well, they actually called it a new chapter, but I guess we can view it as sort of like a new arc. So in essence, you can say the past 5 episodes were really sort of like an introduction to this current world and the plot lines that we're going to be faced with. And apparently this is the first real arc where it's going to be continuous and following one single point of story. So I am looking forward to that, because so far it's been jumping all around and being very hard to follow. It seems like it touches on everything a little bit, but nothing really happens, if you will. So let's just get into the episode right now. And let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Unified Zeskia. Okay, and this is the guy who became the prime minister. Yeah, there we go. And then the 5 behind him are probably the 5 dukes. There we go. Okay, so they actually did explain this in the anime. I actually got this information from the official website already. Right, and I do recall, I think 2 of them, or 3 of them, are actually dead. Okay, so that's 2 gone. Okay, so 2 left. Both we have seen. One is Ray Dawn, and then the other one is the guy that was talking with Wolfran last episode. Oh, that looks nice. Yeah, Swarsties was the one last episode who met with Wolfran, and Raydon is of course the guy who torched Maria's and Vel's village, and is also actually one of the 7 knights. So he is also a very powerful fairy soldier. There we go. The 2 remaining dukes. Alright, let me skip this real quick. I'll see you guys in a second. Here we go. Fellow Traveler. Is that an artificial fairy or just a suit of armor? Artificial fairies. Are they going to actually revolt during that time? No. We don't even need to wait till then. Ah. He's got a bigger flute. I love how they're controlled by whistles. Alright. Man, there's like a lot of people in this. in this work. And they all use katakana names, so very foreign names. It's really hard to remember all of them, actually. Yeah. Well, it didn't malfunction. It just received orders from a higher power. Oh? These two? Your rifle is like quite... Ooh, nice. That was really... Again, this anime just has this habit of putting some very epic music, even though it didn't really do much. Security Bureau? Oh, are those like supposed to be posted guards? I actually thought those were for sale. But then again, it makes sense, right? You're not supposed to deal with uh, selling artificial fairies. That should be illegal. Okay. What is Swiftadorphia and using motorcycles? Agent Dice. Oh. Don't you girls think you're being a little bit obvious with your tailing? And especially with the outfits and equipment you guys have. You stick out like a sore thumb. Mm-hmm. Oh, hey there. Damn. Well... Oh, you weren't the one who released the info this time? So I guess this is the real one. Hmm. I mean... Hmm. I remember she was saved by the current chief, right? Yeah. Hmm. I guess that's a positive way to look at it. Oh. So how did they not discover him? I'll need to look at that again. Did he actually change his appearance? Somehow I kind of think like you guys would have had better chances if you didn't let him get on the train at all. Oh? 哦 Hi, informant dude. I thought you died. You're awfully suspicious, dude. Oh. Who? The Duke? Gui Carlin? Gilbert Warlock? Alright, so another new guy, of course. Hoo boy. Alright, I'll see you guys after the episode, after the ending. Okay, there's actually a little bit more after the ending. The fairies? Yeah. You did it, didn't you? Alright. Let's wrap this one up. Alrighty, so that was episode 6 of Fairy Goon, and to my surprise, they actually did mention the backstory in regards to the Empire and the Five Dukes within this episode. So just to reiterate, again, a lot of this information can be found on the official website as well. But basically, when they're talking about the War of Unification, it's actually a war of reunification, right? So the Emperor of Zesia actually had the first generation, the first emperor of Zessia was the one who actually unified the entire empire. So Zessia the Great, if you will. But as with later generations, their official power kind of dwindled, and so the power of the individual kings rose up to the point where it was threatening the stability of the actual empire. So in the end, they had this big war of reunification again, where the king of, I believe, Cibal, or whatever that is called, he was the one who managed to gather all the armies and then unify the kingdom. Unify the empire, and then eventually decided to give back power or resign from his position as king and instead turn into a prime minister instead. So I guess you can say it's sort of like the Sengoku Jidai of Japan, the Warring States period, where the empire, the emperor is really just a figurehead, and then the actual power is held by the shogun, right, the great general. It's sort of a similar situation to that even here, although they, I guess, apparently decided to turn from a more medieval feudal system into a constitutional monarchy, where they still have an emperor, but that's just a figurehead, and they instead have prime ministers and the dukes instead, right? And so that is that. Now, the 5 dukes, as we can know from this episode, 3 of them are already dead, mostly for matters in regards to rebellion, and so the only 2 left are Raydon, who is the one who torched Vel's and Maria's village, and is also a fairy soldier in his own right. The other one is Schwarz Diaz, the one who we saw talking with Wolfran last episode, and is apparently also plotting something against either Raydon or maybe even the entire empire. So those 2 are the main dukes that are probably going to come into conflict within this current arc. So that is the current backstory for this part. Now, as for the other dude that was mentioned within this episode, the dude at the very end, where it's believed that the agent, the dice, the guy who auctioned for the Black Fairy Tome, his client is actually this Gilbert Warlock guy, right? At least, unless this anime is bamboozling us and it just cut to mentioning him for no reason. So here, the Twitter actually also gave out some more information, but I don't know if it really counts as a spoiler. Maybe they'll mention it in the next episode as well, but just in case, I will hold up my finger. And so if you don't want to listen to this part, if you want to be completely spoiler-free, I guess you can just skip until my finger comes down, right? So anyways, so this Gilbert Warlock guy, his backstory is that, well, first of all, he's a billionaire slash millionaire, so he's very rich, he's very wealthy, and he mostly made his fortune by I guess, providing goods and services during the Unification War, right? So he was on the winning side, and he gained a lot of profit from the war. But he actually has another hidden identity, and that is he's actually one of the key personnel of the mafia group Gui Carlin, the same group that Sweetie is affiliated with, right? So apparently, since he's part of Gui Carlin, he is also gathering these Black Fairy Tombs himself as well. Although, is he actually gathering it as part of his involvement with Gui Carlin, or is it just by his own lonesome and of his own doing it by himself, right? Not under the orders of the mafia group. That remains to be seen, because from the very end of the episode, it seems that Sweetie is going to come into a confrontation with this Gilbert Warlock guy, and that leads me to believe that maybe either Sweetie or this Gilbert Warlock guy is not, one of them is not acting under the interest of the mafia group. So that is something to keep an eye on. So with that, so that was all the spoilers in regards to Gilbert Warlock. So I think how this story is going to continue on, it seems fairly obvious that something is going to happen on the anniversary of the war, right? So my current prediction is that Schwarz Diaz is going to be trying to do an uprising, a rebellion of some sort, or just an uproar, targeting either Raydon, or maybe even targeting the Emperor and the entire Empire. And we can assume he's going to be the one behind it because from the ending scene when he received the information about the malfunctioning artificial fairy, it leads me to believe that he has something to do with it, right? And considering that these artificial fairies are the current security guards for the anniversary event, it seems pretty obvious that he's either going to think of a way to control all these guards, all these artificial fairies, so that he will have a standing army right there ready to use when he does do his thing, whatever it is. Or maybe he's going to use this as an excuse to actually change out this current batch of artificial fairies and then maybe substitute it with his own batch, right? Because we do know that he has access to lots and lots of artificial fairies because Wolfram is working for him, and Wolfram is going around procuring and securing all these different artificial fairies. So I think this is part of his plan to, in some way, gain control of the security detail during the day of the anniversary, and then use that security detail to hold a revolt or uprising or something of that sort. So that is how I'm predicting the series is going to continue on. So that was all the story parts. Let's talk a little bit about this episode, right? I know I'm kind of on the fence on whether I like or dislike this episode. On one hand, I do enjoy watching them, going around and just doing stuff, right? Instead of having a lot of different people with different names popping up and who, frankly, I'm not sure if I should care about or not. It's, and in contrast with the fairy battles that we've been seeing over and over, it gives us a chance to let us understand how the Dorothea normally works, right? How these members normally work when they're not using their special fairy powers. Now, on the other hand, I just feel like it's the things that were portrayed this episode were way too shallow, right? Like, I can kind of get that what they were trying to do was explain the daily operations of the Dorothea and maybe let us learn a little bit more about the characters, especially Clara and Maria, right? But on the other hand, I feel like they just didn't do enough, right? So say for instance the scene where Clara and Maria were fighting against the informant and the informant thugs, right? So, yeah, sure, it was badass and all that, but the thing is, we already knew that these two girls were badass, and we already knew how they treated their work, right? Clara has always been this no-nonsense kind of girl, and Maria, even though she seems a little bit out of it or airheaded normally, once she gets down to actual work, she's very concentrated and she's focused and locked in, right? So we didn't really learn anything new in regards to them during that scene. Like, if they could somehow maybe let their personality shine a little bit more during the scenes, I feel like that would have been better. Like, even the part where Clara was talking about her backstory, right? But the thing is, we already knew that Clara was saved by the current director, right? And that flashback scene was so, there wasn't much more to it. Like, okay, so the director saved her from the battlefield. The end. Right? What more are we supposed to infer from that? Like, what was the past that she went through? Did she sacrifice anything else? Like, how hard did she work to gain a position within Dorothea? And did she do something, like, do we learn anything more about her personality or as a person during this scene? The answer is no, right? So I don't know. I just feel like it's a missed opportunity. If you are going to do something like this within the episode, you're not trying to hurry along with the story. You're trying to keep it at a slow pace. At least give us something substantial, right? So that's that. Again, I'm not dissing the anime based on the fact that it chose to do this kind of thing, but I feel like if you are going to go at a slow pace, there's better ways and better things to show. Like, for instance, we didn't really need to see the dice dude, the agent, trying to shake off the girls and whatnot, right? It's not like Dorothea is a secret intelligence service that relies on infiltration and telling people, right? So what was the point of watching them trying to tell someone and frankly suck at it, right? I don't know. I feel like that whole part could have been easily shortened, and they could have gave us some more stuff instead, either in regards to the plot or in regards to their character development. But sadly, that was not the case. So anyways, that's my thoughts for this episode of Fairy Gone. And also a quick heads up for you guys. Next weekend, I am actually going to be on vacation in Japan. I'm attending a concert there. So the next episode of Fairy Gone will be delayed until I get back. So I'm guessing that the video will probably be delayed by 3 to 4 days. So I do apologize in advance, but I will still try to get them out as soon as possible once I return, right? I'm gonna have to go through like a lot of backlog of different animes that I missed out on. So, but it will still be coming, don't worry. Or if it becomes the worst, then maybe I'll just release episode 7 and episode 8 at the same time next Sunday, right? That's also a potential solution. So anyways, that's been episode 6 of Fairy Gone. This has been Maverick, and so I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.